Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. To all 0 people who watch, LOL. But get ready with me, I guess, or watch me finish my hair as I give a review of Sinners. To preface, this will have a lot of spoilers, so don't watch if you have not seen the movie. I feel there's no way to talk about the movie without talking about the movie and dancing around it and just saying, good movie, go see it. No. So exit if you have not seen it and come back to this video. So let's talk about the movie. So Sinners, I have seen Sinners 3 times. I'm like repeating what I just reported. Oh my gosh. But I've seen Sinners 3 times. So I think I have like a nice thorough understanding of the movie. The first time I saw it was standard with my boyfriend, and I saw the movie in IMAX. I saw it in IMAX alone because that's what I originally wanted to see, but the time that we went, IMAX was like pretty much sold out, like all the time. We have like one IMAX theater in the city I'm in, so yeah, sold out, high demand, deservingly so, because that was a good movie. And I'm so happy I saw it in IMAX because I kind of would have regretted not seeing it a little bit in a way that it is intended to be seen. So yeah, the third time I saw it standard, in a standard way again, because I just wanted to see it again. I literally had to get my weekly Sinners fixing, and I literally wanted to see it again. But I'm not gonna go to theaters anymore. I'm gonna wait until obviously DVD come out. I'm getting whatever, comes with it. I'm purchasing the photo book if they have one. Like, Sinners was a beautiful movie. And speaking of beauty, yeah, that's what I wanted to talk about was IMAX. I think I, like everyone else, was drawn into the movie because of Ryan Coogler's video he did with Kodak. And I bet he nor Kodak knew that video was going to blow up. And I think what's special about that video is that it just showcased pure passion about the film. A common common conversation now is about like late stage capitalism. What's the term that I hate seeing now? Oh my gosh, let me go to my Twitter page. But oh yes, recession indicator, fascism indicator. Oh my gosh, please stop. But in the midst of what everyone is deeming late stage capitalism, I have some thoughts on that. Knowing what I know about this country and whatnot, being black in America, I'm gonna go back to that one day. But I think in the midst of that, and so much being obviously centered on consumerism and capitalism and buying things and influencer culture, which can seem very inauthentic a lot of times. Even if someone is feels authentic, but feels passionate about something, particularly about with like short term or short form videos like TikTok, it's still clouded in this like buy it hashtag ad. You know what I mean? Like, it's just like, it's not real sometimes, and it's just like overloaded with that on social media. So seeing Ryan Coogler team up with Kodak, and he's passionately speaking about the film strips that he and the cinematographer and whatnot used to film this movie in, you could feel the true passion he has about directing, about this being able to be filmed on IMAX 70 millimeter, I believe is what it's called. That being the intention to see it. He gave a reason why. Like, it's all intentional. And I think that drew a lot of people in. It's because we rarely get to see straight up passion, like straight up someone who loves film and directing and producing like he does, talk about their craft. And he even like referenced schooling, like what he learned in school and stuff like that. So it's rare we get to see that without something being like, this is an ad, you know what I mean? We're trying to sell you something. So I'm sure they didn't even know that it was going to blow up like that. And that is one of the reasons I wanted to see the movies, because I was like, oh, like I didn't know anything about 70 millimeter IMAX. I didn't like even IMAX. It's like it's not really explained the purpose. Even though I've seen movies in IMAX before, I haven't seen a movie in IMAX since I was like in high school, like, or middle school, a long time. I'm not that old, but definitely over 7 years ago. I haven't seen anything in IMAX, and understanding the intention behind it brought just another level of connection to it. So I remember seeing the preview for this film. I remember reading about Michael B. Jordan before the preview came out, playing twins in a movie. And I was like, that's interesting. I want to see like what he's gonna do. I do remember people's reaction on Twitter. A lot of people doubted his ability, which is interesting. I'm like, I definitely remember the conversation beforehand. I remember seeing the preview, which I think is good, and I like when movies don't reveal the plot of the movie through the preview, but it's still like, it's like, this is intriguing, a potential vampire movie. Like, you see the vampire, you see Michael B. Jordan shooting a machine gun. So it kind of gives you a really surface level, or just like a little tidbit of what the movie is about. And that movie is so much more than that. And I think Ryan Coogler did really well in touching a lot of topics and like connecting the dots to everything and explaining it to the audience. I do think some people get it. I do think a lot of people don't get it. But even the people who may not understand it, and again, like, art is subjective. I get it in that aspect. You're only limited to like what you know and understand. But even the people who may not understand African American culture and history still tended to enjoy the film, enjoy the music, and just the film overall, the acting, the cinematography, the music, the plot and whatnot. So yes, like I said, visually the film is amazing. I'm glad I got to see it in IMAX. Like I said, I saw it standard first, and then seeing it in IMAX, there were scenes where, like, you know, standard films it's like a rectangle, and IMAX it's like a square. So certain scenes, the IMAX, like, it fills up the whole screen, and it's like a picture book, and you're like so immersed into the movie. And the particular scenes were like the final fight scene between the vampires and those inside the juke joint. The Remick scene where he's dancing to Rocky Road to Dublin, I believe it's called, after most of the people in the juke joint unfortunately were turned into vampires, and they're in this hive mind with Remick, the vampire, that's his name. The scene, one of my favorites to see, is in the car with Sammy, aka Preacher's Boy, I think Stack, and Delta Slim in the car. And it's like this, I don't know how to describe it. I'm imagining like a diamond, the car, and like you got the camera here, and it's just like this beautiful angle with the cotton fields in the background and this road, and it's just like gorgeous in the sky. It like really submerges you into the movie. So that was beautiful. Shout out to the cinematographer. She did her thing. I forgot her name, but she did her thing. Next I want to talk about the music. So the music, I'm not even braiding my hair, y'all. LOL. I should probably just like ignore it, because I'm yapping and I can't focus on both. But the music is composed by Ludwig Göransson. I'm gonna have to learn how to pronounce his name properly. Who is a genius. He did the music for Black Panther, Oppenheimer, And about like with this film, I just truly appreciate the research and history he did with Black American music art form, like the blues. And it did help a lot that he mentioned his father was like a big fan of the blues, seeing as though Ludwig is from Sweden. I don't know if he's from Sweden or like first generation or whatnot, but it kind of was like a full circle thing for him, I'm assuming. But he did his thing with that. I'll talk about the main musical numbers, which were amazing, but like something that caught my attention along with the cinematography was the music in the background. There's this constant like strumming of this guitar in the background. And in particular, what I noticed was the character. I'm assuming they are the character's theme music, like the Stack theme, the smoke theme. There's like a transition when you see Stack and then Smoke. But after the first scene with Preacher Boy and his father, who is a pastor, who is played by Saul Williams. I didn't even realize when I was watching the movie that was Saul Williams. Go look him up if you don't know who he is. But there's a cut between Preacher Boy's father, and Remick. What Preacher Boy went through in the end. It's like this, like the timeline of the movie is like a U shape almost. Like it connects eventually, versus like here to here. But which I also enjoyed. But after that scene, there's this like strumming of this guitar in the background when we see Smoke and Stack. And I love that the characters have this theme music. I think I learned about character theme music with, I'm like low-key at work, but this character theme music, watching Naruto, for example, if you ever seen that show, you got Orochimaru's theme, which is this evil organ playing when Orochimaru enters the scene. So I kind of appreciate that we have that. And it's this constant music playing that like really submerges you into the 30s, and like the simple like just guitar. Like obviously there were no like speakers and electronics and stuff like that. So yeah, music was amazing. So yeah, I talked about the background music, and next I guess I want to talk about music as a character. And it's funny, what prompted me to do this review was I watched a prominent film, I don't know if he's a film critic here on YouTube. He has like a lot of followers, and his review has like over 1.5 million reviews. But what prompted me to talk about this was I don't think he understood a certain element of how music is, or the character of music in the film. And again, I'm not like bashing him for his interpretation of the film or anything. And like I said, it's a lot of cultural elements you have to understand. Like the more you know, the more you can kind of know in a sense. But because he said something about music, he understood the very, very beginning of the film. It's Annie, played by Wunmi. She's the narrator's voice throughout the film. So before that splicing of Preacher Boy and Remick, there's a narration, this animated narration of Annie speaking about music, how it can draw in basically ancestors in the past and stuff like that. And also like the good, I guess. And on the flip side, it also can draw in evil. Imagine it drawing in lost souls and stuff like that. Like that's who Remick was, that person. And that also to me speaks to this other underlining theme of duality. The reason why is there twins? Like why is Michael Jordan playing twins? Michael B. Jordan playing Michael Jordan, that's his name too. But why is he playing twins? Like how come it wasn't just brothers? like I remember a common conversation was about should have Jonathan Majors been in the film, like could he have played his brother or like any other actor? And I think it speaks to this theme. I don't even know if I can like go in depth into it. Again, like I feel like I'm limited by a certain knowledge, or maybe I should watch maybe Ryan Coogler can explain. He kind of like touched on it a little bit, but I have a feeling it's something even more deep, because he spoke about a common. Well, I've known about like Nigerian culture, Yoruba culture. They're I think Nigerians are like the most likely to have twins. There's this like deity thing of having twins that's also connected to the religion of Ifa, which is also displayed in the movie in a sense. And also this just theme of duality of smoking stacks. Smoking stack of why is Smoking Stack wearing red and blue? Why in the beginning of the film music draws in good and evil? Why is Preacher Boy he got his father tugging on him saying use his music just for gospel music in the church, and then you got the evil Remick saying use your music for blues and invoking my ancestors in the church, aka his hive mind, and finding out that Preacher Boy's father and Remick are kind of one and the same, hence the splicing in the beginning of the film. They're kind of doing the same thing. It's like this duality thing, like Preacher Boy dad, Remick, same thing, top and bottom. But yeah, going back to that other YouTuber, which prompted me to do this video, he said he understood that part of music drawing in these two different groups of people, but I feel like I kind of heard this too. It's like music didn't save the day in a sense at the end. He said he expected some music scene to come up, or the concept of music being the thing to defeat Remick. And in my head, I was like, do you like expect like a like SpongeBob when they did that Super Bowl episode to like defeat? I think that would have been like kind of corny. But again, not going in on it reviewer, but I was kind of like questioning what was he thinking about that. But that's why I'm like, there is a lot of layers to this film. I feel like sometimes you can miss. There's things I'm probably missing. I don't know what Ryan Coogler was thinking writing the movie. I'm sure Ryan Coogler is probably watching people review the movie and being like, oh shoot, I didn't even realize like I even created that, or that could have connected. But anyways, so yeah, the character of music, like I said, Annie did a narration about it, and I think the character of music is more so for the character development of Sammy, aka Preacher's Boy, who is to me just as important, if not the most important character in the whole film, but just as important as the Stacks twins, as being his cousin. Their cousins, their cousin. But Sammy has this like inner conflict he has about his gift. It's obvious that he has a gift. Everybody senses it with him. Even his father senses it. Remick senses this gift that he has. And Remick and his father want it for themselves in a sense, and I think that is what the character of music is. And then we have this famous big number in the movie where Preacher Boy finally gets to show off, he's center stage playing his song I Lied to You, which was kind of like a message to his father, like I lied to you, like I said I'm gonna play in the church and I'm gonna play the gospel music, but I love the blues. What can I say, man? And he plays the song, and that scene, like, I think everyone talked about it. Truly an outer body experience. Preacher Boy is playing, and it evokes everybody's ancestors almost. Like, you got like a West African, I'm about to say Mandinka, but I'm thinking about the History Channel version of Roots. But you got like the more, I don't know if it's like ancient African, or like a modern African, but you got them playing this strumming, of this instrument, probably a predecessor to the guitar or the banjo, aka something that our ancestors who came from Africa to the United States had naturally kind of knew how to play, those who were musicians back then in their home, and then had to play this instrument, this more European instrument. Or I'm gonna have to look up the history of the banjo and the guitar, the creation of the literal instrument. Was there an origin, or was there like a two things happening at the same time? But the concept of African American culture in the first place is this like essence and soul that we have, this memory of Africa, but having these European tools and European instruments and making use of what we have. But him playing that is like this African ancestor playing it, and then it merges the past and the future. You then get this almost like Ernie Isley, like 1970s as electric guitar coming in with like funk soul music of the 70s, and then you get this DJ coming in. It's like now it's the 80s, it's the 90s. You got the break dancers of the 80s and the emergence of hip hop coming in. You got, I appreciate Ryan Coogler probably throwing in some of his culture, the West Coast culture, of them dancing, crip walking and stuff like that. You get the girls twerking, which is also an ancient African practice that was done, except it's interpreted a different way now or whatever, the way people view it, but it's all one and the same. Like, and I think it was a certain interview, I don't know her name. Let me see if I can pull it up real quick. What's up, y'all? I'm back. I was like going on a tangent, and I was like, hold on, a stream of thought, and I forgot where I was going. But I found the article of what I was trying to connect. So what I was speaking about with the music, and particularly that scene with Preacher Boy, is this concept, and here's the interview. The website is called Religion Dispatches, by Megan Goodwin, and she interviewed Dr. Yvonne Cheroux, I believe that's her name, author of The Iconic Black Magic and official hoodoo consultant of Ryan Coogler's latest smash hit Sinners. And it's this concept of, here you go. Okay, cool part about it. I'm gonna read it verbatim. She said, when I first sat down with them, the people at Sinners, including Ryan Coogler, I said, what is this movie about, Ryan Coogler? He said it was kind of a horror film, and I said, I don't do horror, Ryan Coogler. And she speaks about not doing horror because hoodoo and Ifa and a lot of African spiritual religions are characterized as evil. And she's like, I'm not gonna do this. Like, I feel her on that. He said, oh, Professor, you're gonna like this. You're gonna like this, Professor. So I said, all right, tell me more. It's a wonderful experience to collaborate with creatives who take the stories they tell seriously, who want to work to have a message. When he shared the outline with me, he said he wanted to talk about voodoo. I said, but it wasn't really voodoo. He was interested in what I call the ancestor moment, the scene in the juke joint where Preacher Boy calls in spirits and ancestors of everyone listening to him play. The filmmakers were very careful with these stories from folks of different ethnic backgrounds, because Grace and Bo are Chinese, referring to the Chinese grocery store owners in the film. And also, I think in the interview, the guy who plays Bo is Malaysian, particularly, and Ryan Coogler brought in a Malaysian, I'm gonna have to remember, I'm like on Google. It's called the Monkey King. So he brought in like a Malaysian character, an ancient character in the story. But anyways, going back to this interview, she said filmmakers were very careful with these stories from folks of different ethnic backgrounds, referring to the Chinese grocery store owners in the film. I said, this is Dr. Yvonne. I said, you're trying to convey ancestral time. And I thought, never mind, the vampires, he's got something here. I'm trying to see if she like talked about it even more. But yeah, I thought that was interesting. I think I saw another interview of the concept of ancestral time. It's like this, it's like time in that sense. Again, I'm like limited by what knowledge I have. I only go on off of articles. I'm not a practitioner or anything, but I respect, different people's religions and stuff. And I understand what she's saying about, it's kind of like a circle almost, like it's all of these things happening at the same time, past, present, and future, not just this linear type of thing. But I don't know where I was going with that, but I think that is the character of this movie. The character of music in this movie. So it's not as simple as music's going to save the day or whatever. It's more so representing inner conflict, representing duality, representing ancestral time. And that's something that Remick is in search for. That's the thing that gravitates him to the people in the first place. Like, that is what music acts as. It's like this chain reaction happening versus this very simple story of music's the start and the end. Like, it don't start and end. It's the thing. It's not linear. That's just me concepting, you know what I mean? But yeah. Speaking of music again, oh yes, another character, Delta Slim, played by Delroy Lindo. I love Delroy as an actor. He conveyed this character so well. Wunmi, that's another thing I want to touch on. Both of them not being American, they're not African American. Wunmi Mosaku is Nigerian, British Nigerian. I think she was born in Nigeria and is British nationality wise. Delroy was born in England, in the UK also, and he's of Jamaican descent, and his family moved him to the US. So he's been here since a teenager. He pretty much like culturally, I don't know like what he feels himself. He might feel like I am American and I am British and I am Jamaican and whatnot, but he did spend most of his life here in America, and I deeply appreciate from both of them the research that they did of the culture, of our culture, and the respect that they have. And Wunmi playing Annie, how much she talked about in her interviews, she's taken from her research of the exploration of African American practices, which is not a religion but a practice of hoodoo, and how it helped her discover her Nigerian ancestors and her Nigerian culture. Like, I think that is the ancestral time happening here, because her culture is the predecessor of African American culture, but yet this thing in the future help her understand the past. That's crazy. But Delroy Lindo's character named Delta Slim, love his character. He's not just this drunk, you know what I mean, good musician. Like, I feel like any other movie would have made his character, I'm not trying to watch the time, I got a meeting. I feel like any other movie would have made his character so flat. He's just drunk or whatever, and maybe he saves the day randomly. But why is Delta Slim drunk? They living in Jim Crow. Like, I will never understand fully what black people in America went through in Jim Crow era. It's to the point where my great grandmother on my dad's side, her name was Mammy Ball. She died in 2008, I believe, probably 2007. I remember she died after my father died. I remember asking my grandmother, my paternal grandmother, about her past, and my grandmother couldn't tell me, because I remember my grandmother told me she literally wouldn't talk about her past because it was so traumatizing. My great grandmother was a child in the 1930s. She was probably a little younger than what Preacher Boy would have been. She probably would have been his age, to be honest. I don't know if she was a child. I'm gonna have to look on like Ancestry. But she would have been there during that time of the characters. My great grandmother, I'm sorry, lived through the Great Depression and Jim Crow era in Alabama. Okay, we know how Alabama is. Here's my family tree. I'm trying to get the year she was born. My great grandmother was born in 1922. So she would have been 10 plus when the movie took place. And my grandmother told me she was so traumatized she would not talk about her past. Her family had to give her up as a child because they were so poor. And she basically became a live-in maid to one of the first black dentists in Alabama. I think that's true. I'm gonna have to ask my grandmother again, but that should tell you how traumatizing, how violent the Jim Crow era was for black people. And it's no wonder Delta Slim is drunk all the time. Look at how people manage stress today. Imagine that times 100. A lot of us will probably be drinking corn liquor all the time. Okay. But there was this scene, just because I'm talking about music, I think a number of people recognize, not everybody, but it really hit me, was when they picked up Delta Slim. He finally agreed to go to play at the juke joint. It's him, Sammy and Stack, and again, that scene when they're riding in the car is just beautiful. He passes by, I forgot what they're called, chain gangs? Yes, something like that. But they pass by these chain gangs, which are unfortunately incarcerated, captured black people, and they're chained up together and they're hitting these rocks. They're in striped black and white and whatnot. I did a little research and read that they had a 30% mortality rate. 30% of those people died. And that's not including people who became disabled because of the backbreaking work, and it was unethical, it was not safe or anything. But anyways, I'm going on a rant. Y'all, what we went through in this country, give me my reparations right now, because it's crazy. But he passes by them, and the audio's a little inaudible to me. I'm gonna have to look it up, and I also have a little hearing loss. But he roused them up. He knew all of them, and they raised their fists. There's this gunshot, and that prompts Delta Slim, because Sammy asked did he know them, and it prompts him to talk about some other friends that he had, how they played this show. They played the blues. He said the white people were stomping and clapping. They loved it. But I think that is also a representation of how I think non-black people kind of indulge and dibble and dabble in black music today. To them, it's a little entertainment. It's a time to be rebellious, and then you can dip your toe out and go and live your life. But he talked about his friends and how they made money, and one of his friends was going to purchase a church in Arkansas, and unfortunately, he was wrongly accused of assaulting a white woman, and they lynched him in the train station. And in that scene, again, going back to the music, you hear the background audio of what happened. That was so genius. It submerges you into the scene. You hear the crowd chanting, you hear the yelling of what was possibly happening during that time. And they lynched his friend, and as he's telling the story, you can see he's reliving this moment. And this scene, Delroy, the genius that he is, because I heard it was improv, and he is in pain. He's like, And then he turns that into a song. What the fuck? He starts humming a song, and I'm like, that is the blues, y'all. That is the blues. Oh my God, I got a meeting, but I'm gonna keep recording. That is the blues, y'all. The blues came from slave hymns and spiritual songs and expressing anger and sadness, hence it being named the blues. It was a way to transmute those feelings into song and express it out because you couldn't physically do it, you know what I mean? There were consequences, so you can sing it out. Okay, I am back. I'm still at work, so I had to, take my meetings, do my work, I'm almost on my hair. I got like 2 more. I'll do those whenever I feel like it. That's the benefit of doing your own hair. So, the next topic I want to touch on. Oh, yeah, I do want to go back to Delta Slim. Yeah, that moment was amazing. That moment, such a like, I don't even want to say unintentional. It was intentional. I'm sure like, I'd imagine that Delroy Lindo literally just like the feeling of it, like the improvisation of that moment made him feel something. And I'd imagine as a director, those are like the actors to get, is those who feel things and like, I don't know. And I'm just happy that like going off the interviews, it seemed like the actors felt really heard by the director, especially that scene with Delroy Lindo. So I'm glad Ryan Coogler made that move, and like the fact that he didn't even write that in the script, that was something that came from Delroy feeling that moment, which is why I do believe it's possible that Ryan or any director of any movie, when if they read reviews from other people, are like, wow, like that person just came up with something I totally wasn't even thinking of, but like it just made that thing that this person felt or interpreted. Yeah, like I said, going back to the chain gangs, like that was what enslaved people. I try not to say slaves and master anymore, but like enslaved people and slave holders. I think Michael Twitty, who is a food historian, kind of came up with that concept. He came and spoke to my college, like back in 2015 or something like that. And he said that, and that made so much sense to me. But like people enslaved, like I said, that was a way to pass time. It was a way to express feelings and turmoil. Like being enslaved was not fun. Okay, like. But anyways, amazing scene. And then when that happened, I could tell the guy who played Sammy. Now I don't know like how this goes in filming, like if they just kept going, or if like Delroy had that eureka moment and then they had to kind of like film it a couple times. But Stack, played by Michael B. Jordan, catches on to it, and then he tells Preacher Boy to like strum the guitar, and he doesn't string the guitar. But I kind of like that moment because it's like Preacher Boy still trying to take in everything. He's taking in his emotions. Like obviously he's not gonna like immediately start playing the guitar. Like it's kind of like he's kind of sitting back and taking in what Delta Slim is saying, and really like digesting the emotion and the feeling, and also just the feeling of in the moment of just riding in the car with them. I'd imagine it's interesting. And I think Ryan Coogler, I wish I could find the interview again. He was an amazing interviewer, but he talked about that scene and just having like kind of like these 3 different generations of people. Delroy, who he respects as an actor. Delroy has a career ahead of him, behind him, whatever. His counterpart, his companion, Michael B. Jordan, they kind of came up at the same time. Of course, Michael B. Jordan has acting credits from before Ryan got into film. And then you got a newbie, Sam, played by, is his name Miles Caton? Caton, I'm sorry. That's his very first film. Gospel background. He comes from a prominent gospel family and stuff like that, and merging those 3 generations, this super experienced actor, this more contemporary actor, and then this brand new one. And I think that encapsulates also like Miles' reaction or Sammy's reaction to it. It's kind of like this admirable like moment of seeing these people who have, just forged ahead, have created a path for you to be on. But that was an amazing moment. So yeah, next topic I want to talk about is religion. And I might end up touching on music more. We'll see. I'm thinking particularly about Remick. Because the religion part, I want to speak about Sammy. Sammy's father. I want to find out his proper name. I'm like, I don't know if his dad name was just pastor or something like that. Saul Williams. Jedediah. There we go. Perfect name for him. Jedediah, who is Sammy's father, being a pastor. You have Sammy's conflict between being a preacher's son and wanting to be a blues player, which is an emerging genre at the time. Obviously blues kind of predates Sammy and his age, but like it's popular at the time. And then after blues, or kind of corresponding at the same time, but going with this ancestral time, you got jazz developing and happening at that same time. And before that, you had like ragtime music. So yeah, all this stuff is like happening at the same time. And country music and bluegrass, all this stuff created by African Americans. Religion had an interesting theme, and I think this is another thing that a lot of reviewers kind of miss. And like I said, it's shown up a couple different times. First is, like I said, that splicing of Jedediah, who is Sammy's father, the pastor, and the splicing of Remick, our main vampire guy. And it's an interesting, one could say, critique on Christianity. To me, it don't have to be Christianity. It could be any religion there, but it is important that what role Christianity played during times of slavery. It's enforcement on Africans coming into the Americas via the transatlantic slave trade. It's important to understand it as being a part of Black American culture. Even if today you're agnostic, you don't believe, practice any religion, or you practice a different religion, like Christianity is an integrated part of our culture, which also connects to hoodoo with Annie's character, because hoodoo is kind of like a bridging of these like African spiritual traditions. Some Native American traditions, as well as Christianity. So yeah, it's an interesting topic that I think will always be debated about its enforcement on us. Obviously, like most African Americans are Christian, and yeah, the splicing was definitely interesting. I didn't catch it. Obviously, like when I first watched the movie, I'm like, everything's like new to me. But when the movie ended, and then when I watched it the second time in IMAX, noticing the pastor having the same hand movements, the same phrasing of words towards Sammy, and both the pastor and Remick's approach to Sammy is of how can I use you and your gifts, or how can I use your gifts? It's not about Sammy. And even worse with Remick, it's like, okay, he's a vampire. He has no relationship with Sammy. But like Sammy's father, the pastor, that's his son. And he still only views Sammy as like, how can I use your gifts? Not about you. A funny critique I saw on Twitter, I didn't even think of, was like, after the whole ordeal, as we see, Sammy has this permanent scratch on his face. He's bloodied up and injured. He injured his leg jumping from the building when Smoke told him to escape. His father doesn't, embrace him, doesn't comfort him. His mother does. As he walks into the church, his mother sees him in surprise, screaming because she cares about him. But with his father, the thing he does is turn his sermon that he's having into a lesson of his son choosing a different path that he warned him about. And that's just like interesting. The father doesn't really approach him in a sense of love and care. We only get to see Sammy's mom a total of like 1 minute in the entire movie, but we feel and sense that maternal love that she has of Sammy. Then you have his father. It's purely his gifts that is the important thing, not Sammy himself. I mean, I guess you could say warning him about blues. That's another common thing a lot of people don't understand, is that blues, almost like any other music that's not gospel, is what's called like the devil's music. It had a lot of like negative connotations to it. So maybe his father warning him about that. Obviously it's a projection of his fear and of his religion. I guess the Bible it don't specify anything about blues specifically. As you know, we adapt things with culture, with superstition and stuff like that. But yeah, very interesting that splicing. And of course, like when you first see the movie, it's initially a jump scare, and then in the end it's like, oh, connection happening. Remick and Sammy's father kind of having the same goal at the end. So now I want to talk about Annie. I might come back to the pastor too, but yes, Annie. This is the part I feel like deters a lot of black people from the movie, unfortunately, and it's kind of sad to me. But Annie is a hoodoo practitioner. Annie is Smoke's wife, I believe. Smoke and Annie shared a child who unfortunately died as a baby. I'm not sure if the child died like via miscarriage or if the baby was born and then the child died. I think it's the latter. But she is a hoodoo practitioner, and that is the spooky thing to a lot of black people, unfortunately, viewing this movie or preventing them from viewing it, is her practices. And I find it interesting because hoodoo, just like Christianity, has a lot of like cultural connotations and integrations into African American culture in a lot of ways we don't even consciously know of, like superstitions we have, such as not putting your purse on the ground because it can mean a loss of money, not sweeping a broom on your feet and spitting on the broom. I think that's what it is, tossing salt, spitting on a broom if you sweep your feet. Another movie that touches on that is Charles Burnett, To Sleep with Anger. I think that came out in the early 90s, if I'm not mistaken. Shout out to Cheryl Rafleaf. She was in that movie. A lot of prominent black actors. Danny Glover. I highly recommend people to check out Charles Burnett, period. I think he's a very underrated and under-celebrated black director. But that movie touches on the concept of superstition and elements of hoodoo and stuff like that. But like I said, just as much as Christianity is, that hoodoo has a lot of like cultural integrations into our cultures we sometimes don't realize, are conscious about. Not many people know this, but like where I'm from, in Memphis, the concept of a Kojic church, a church in God in Christ, was founded by Charles Mason, before it was called Memphis, it was Shelby County. And guess what? He was a hoodoo practitioner. There's literally a picture of him at his table, and he has like bones and skulls and other tools and roots and stuff like that. And this same man founded the Church of God of Christ and God in Christ, which is I feel like one of the most strict church denominations, Christian denominations with black people. The Clark sisters are like Kojic, I believe. And I'm like, your founder was a hoodoo practitioner. So it's interesting seeing people be scared of it. I'm like, you don't have to practice anything. Like, it's a practice, first of all. That's another distinguisher. Hoodoo is not a religion like voodoo is, like Christianity is, like Buddhism is. It is a practice. You can still be Christian, you can still be Buddhist, you can still be Jewish and be a hoodoo practitioner, but obviously hoodoo has strong relations to Christianity. So anyways, Annie, shout out to Annie. I think she was a fan favorite amongst everybody. She was, for me, she was the brains of the group. She had the knowledge. She saved everybody as much as she could with her knowledge. Her knowledge of hoodoo is the reason why she knew about vampirism. The reason she knew about the concept, I never heard of this, but some people have, of haints. And she explained, initially she thought Remick was a haint, but she found out, or she realized he's not a haint, he's a vampire. And her knowledge and connection to that is the reason why everybody survived. Her knowledge of hoodoo is the reason why Smoke survived his whole life until he made the active choice to take off his mojo bag that she gave him. The mojo bag she gave him is the thing that protected him while he was in Chicago. He and Stack were dealing. It was kind of insinuated that they were having dealings with the Italian mob. They mentioned Al Capone, and we can insinuate that they stole some money from these mobs, which is why they had to escape Chicago. It's the reason why he was safe during the whole vampire raid. It was a scene, when Smoke and Stack were fighting, and I was telling my boyfriend, initially I thought that it was like Stack was trying to like bite him, and you could tell that there was a repulsion happening. I thought it was because, that's the reason why they use twins, is because that twin connection kind of overpowered the connection that Remick had on everybody else. But I believe that it was the mojo bag that was protecting him from that. As I explained, I have a different idea of what the concept of them using twins is about. But in the end, hoodoo is the thing that protected everybody and all of them as much as possible. Like I said, she could tell them about vampires, but she can't control people and stuff like that. And as she mentioned, the issue between her and Smoke was, how come that hoodoo bag didn't protect our baby? She said she don't know. You know what I mean? Like, it's so much out of control. Like, just because she practices that don't make her God. You know what I mean? Like, and it's interesting, people kind of reducing things down to that. But yeah, shout out to Annie. Definitely my favorite character. Yeah. Going to another religious thing, which I thought was very interesting, going to Remick. So Remick, we got the main vampire, who's revealed to be pretty ancient. He is centuries old. Let me see. I'm looking up the colonization of Ireland. Okay. History of Christianity in Ireland. It said Christian worship had reached pagan Ireland around AD 400. So, say he's from the 1400s. I also see some prominent dates about like the year 1000 AD. Either way, Remick is centuries and centuries years old compared to everyone. And I kind of really appreciated Ryan Coogler bringing this in too. Just as we have that conversation about the concept of like the enforcement of Christianity on African Americans, you also have Remick where it's the same thing. He went through a colonization, his homeland of Ireland, of Christianity. Theirs, I believe, was less violent, significantly less violent, not even comparable, but he probably practiced some form of paganism, some Celtic paganism back in the day. But I really love that concept of this ancient Irish person, and like it also brought these interesting conversations about race. Was he racist because he came from that time? I say yes. I think he was. Obviously, he's lived a long time. But I did appreciate them having that type of culture in there. And Irish culture is important to the United States. During slavery, Irish people, it's funny, it's kind of interesting seeing the outcomes and the critiques of this movie kind of evolve, because on Twitter now people are like, I have some comments about that, like, I'm Irish, I'm part Irish and stuff like that. I am also like 1% Irish, but I'm like, Irish, y'all are Irish because the opposite of consensual happenings happening, if you catch my drift. It wasn't no remix type message, let's be kind to each other, everything is love. It was the opposite of that. If you want to see concepts of that, watch shows like Underground shows you an example. Watch the miniseries The Roots, specifically the Roots remake via the History Channel, which I found to be historically accurate. Will give you an example. It was forced upon us, any Irish ancestry you have. It was bad relationships between Black people and Irish people back then. It wasn't no everything is love. We were both enslaved. We were both no. Irish people were the slave catchers, the overseers, because English people and Irish people, there were basically caste systems between them, and of white people, Irish and Scottish people were seen at the bottom. So they could only do that, or they had to do low wage labor or factory work and stuff like that. So, and because of that, unfortunately, a lot of Irish people and Scottish people felt the only way that they could enforce or feel more powerful than those who were enslaved was through rape, through violence, through killing of Black people. So no, we don't have good relationship history here, and I don't know what this conversation on TikTok is happening. I'm not saying you should hate Irish people now. This is not talking about modern day, but I am saying people are rewriting history. Yeah, it's not the same. But like I said, I can respect the concept of that Ireland also went through a colonization. Christianity is, whether you're a Christian or not, is a very forced upon religion through colonization, evangelism, missionary work, whatever you want to call it. It is all a form of colonization. But yeah, I'm speaking about religion. But yeah, that was interesting. And obviously another prominent aspect of the movie was that very end between Sammy and Remick, that final battle. When Sammy, he's scared all this is happening. Remick wants Sammy for his ability to evoke ancestral time, because Remick is stuck as a vampire, as Annie explained. You're stuck in this body, in this soul. You can't move on, so he can't connect with his ancestors. He's just here on Earth, can't get no sunlight no more, and he so desperately wants. It's interesting because he proposes vampirism and turning as this good thing Like, you don't have to worry about death no more. Like, as we saw in the very end with older Sammy, played by Buddy Guy. What's her name? Mary and Stack proposing to older Sammy. You get, like, making it sound good. And I'm like, at the same time, you got Remick, obviously miserable, technically, as a vampire, because he can't see his people no more. He's far from home. He's attached. Like, he can't connect with that no more. That, we can do, that Sammy can do through his music, which is why he wants Sammy, so he believes, I'm assuming, when he turns Sammy, because he got this hive mind, Sammy has this gift, and he can strum his guitar and evoke some ancestors. Hypothetically thinking, or being conspiracy, I don't want to say conspiracy theorist, but do I believe if he technically did turn Sammy, would it happen? I'll say no. Because, like I said, it's a hive mind. These people aren't thinking of themselves, I'm assuming, until that person gets severed. Looking at Mary and Stack, it's still kind of a hive mind, because they still are different, Mary and Stack. But yeah, if he was able to turn Sammy, would he be able to do that? I don't think so. Which I don't even know how Remick will react to that if he turned Sammy and he got Sammy to play the guitar and realized that, yeah. But yeah, like I said, that final scene, that final battle, when Remick has Sammy, and Sammy, in fear, it's interesting. That's another interesting thing. In fear, he recites his Bible verses. Now, it's not nothing wrong with, like, turning to your religion in fear, but it is interesting that the connection between fear and then turning to religion, or the juxtaposition of using fear to impose Christianity on people. The fear of going to hell, the fear of X, Y, and Z, whatever it was. A lot of that was imposed on enslaved people back at the time, but before it was everything else. But when Sammy is in this desperate state of fear, as I will be too, I will be reciting some prayers too. When he does that, what does Remick do? Remick recites the prayers at the same time. This ain't no like The Exorcist where you're reciting it and it's like burning somebody. Remick is just like Sammy. Y'all both had this religion. Obviously, Remick more, I'm gonna say generation. He's like first generation Christianity. Sammy is like your dad's Christian, your dad's dad had to be Christian. Seeing as though they're sharecroppers, like his great grandfather was probably from Africa, or great great grandfather was probably from Africa and not Christian. But Remick says the prayer at the same exact time as Sammy because he's in that same spot. This ain't no like holy water, which probably would have worked on the vampires, but it's the same thing. And then his hive mind says the prayer at the same time. It was funny, the third time I watched the film, it was this older couple ended up leaving the theater when that happened. Like I said, it does like challenge some people. Some people don't like to see their religion challenged. I feel like if you're strong in your religion, none of that stuff should shake you. But I digress. Everybody's different. Yeah, people were leaving the theater when that was happening. But I was like, y'all not see, like, just think, like, it's okay to critically think about the religion you're in. But I'm not going to, like, impose my ideas. Do what you want to do. Yeah, that was an very interesting moment where Remick says it at the same time. And what ends up saving Sammy is when Smoke, who Stack couldn't kill because of the mojo bag, but he told Stack to allow Sammy to live, if so, and he's able to escape and kill Remick with the stake while he's manhandling Sammy. So yeah, that was interesting. Just this thread of religion throughout the movie. Like I said, it's a part of our culture, and that's something you can't really sidestep. All right, so time to wrap it up. Some final notes. Yeah, other concepts I want to just kind of touch on quickly, not as as elaborate as the other three themes or four themes I was talking about. Obviously, we have the concept of passing. What is white passing? I kind of hate that this was such a big conversation on social media about who was passing, what is passing. With Mary's character, her character is supposed to be, I think, a fourth or octoroon, a fourth black. I remember someone was talking about they should have had Journey Smollett in it, or she's not passing, that's not passing, what is passing? You know what I mean? I think that's the point. Is that the concept of race is so confusing. It contradicts itself. The rules are always bending. The rules are always changing with time. There's different connotations of race. There's different names of types of people pertaining to race. Like in the Caribbean, you got the people who are, I don't know if it's just, like, I'm not even gonna say it, but the people who are black and Indian, they're called this. Or if you only a fourth Indian and black, you call that. If you are an octoroon, if you a quadroon, like it's so much. But I think not that that was the topic of conversation in the movie, but in the conversation that kind of channeled from it, I'm like, it shows that like the concept of race is very confusing. And it's something the world lives with. It was created by white people, one group of people, and imposed on everyone. And here we are. What race are you? Are you mixed? Are you this? Are you black? Are you African American? What if you got a half African parent? And what if you this? It's confusing. So yeah, that I'll touch on that with the passing part. That was funny. The Remick jokes were hilarious. The ones where he was at the door and he wouldn't be let in. That was funny. And he was like, why she in there? Pertaining to Mary. But that was hilarious. Remick was kind of funny at times. Another interesting moment, one of my favorites, was the Native American, particularly the Choctaw vampire catchers. They had such a small moment on the screen, but they had such a very strong presence in the film. And it makes you wonder, like, were they catching, were they always vampires? I was going to say slave. Were they always vampire catchers? Like, have they encountered more Remnicks out there? Were they honed in on Remick? Was it a recent phenomenon? My guess is that there are concepts of vampires throughout history. Just as much as Annie knew about vampires, I'd imagine that the Native Americans know the same, if not more, seeing as though they are indigenous to the Americas and been here since its inception. There's so much lore out there with different regions of America. Like, you can go on TikTok right now and look up the Appalachians, and there's beliefs that there are like spirits out there in the Appalachians, spirits out there in the Everglades and Florida, these like very ancient and indigenous places that Native Americans knew like the back of their hand before, unfortunately, there was a genocide on them. There's so much knowledge lost from that, but such a strong like moment in the film, not many words said. It's a joke of like, they were like, ma'am, like, you got somebody dangerous in your house? She said, no, the sun's going down. They said, all right, peace out. May God bless you. Bye-bye. But yes, I would like to know more about the Native Americans. I'm not saying make a prequel or anything, but yeah, they knew a lot, more than anybody in the movie probably knew about vampires. So yeah, what else? Oh yes, the KKK, another interesting tidbit in the movie. it is a sad fact to know that, like, even if Remick and his vampire posse wasn't there, the KKK was going to come and kill um anybody in that building anyway. So it was like nowhere to turn. It was going to be death for somebody. Uh, the guy in the beginning saying that the KKK didn't exist. Obviously, if you know about Black history during Jim Crow era, that was the most prominent time of the KKK, spearheaded by the film The Birth of a Nation. There was an excessive amount of lynchings of Black people. Women like Ida B. Wells spearheaded campaigns to help prevent that and reduce that. Shout out to her, another Memphis legend. His niece and nephew happened to be, part of the KKK, and they were gonna be out there, causing destruction. We had the ending scene of Smoke getting his revenge, a bittersweet revenge for him because everybody he knew and loved died during that night. And he knew that was going to be his last day when he took off that mojo bag and had the ultimate final battle with the KKK, who were also, it was going to be a gang of them attacking, who knows, whoever was in there, whether it was everyone at the juke joint, still partying till the morning time, or whether it was just Smoke and Stack in there, or whether people were cleaning up, after the party. So yeah, that was another tidbit of moment. But yeah, overall, I don't know if anything else will pop up for me. I'm trying not to touch on like typical topics everyone has already talked about, but overall, the film was amazing. It's been a long time coming. We don't get many original films, unfortunately, nowadays. We know it's just remakes and nostalgia. Sometimes I don't even know if we, the people, really want remakes that much. It's like, it's kind of enforced on us. It's like another remake, a live action remake, and I'm like, who's asking for this stuff? And then we go see it, and it's kind of like, well, y'all are seeing it, and it's making money, so y'all must want more. Like, which came first, the chicken or the egg type of thing. So, seeing an original movie was great, especially from a Black director, Black actors, and whatnot. We don't get to see much of, unfortunately. Will we see more? I think it all depends on the political climate and the time. Obviously, in general, if you want to take the timeline of history of the U.S., yes, things have improved, but we are in a downturn in terms of race relations, with the pulling of DEI from everybody. It's not the best time, and this movie coming out during this time is, to me, just a big jumbotron screen that people want to see these things. Unfortunately, I think a lot of companies are going to be like, oh, this movie made a lot of money. That's what they want. They want more vampire movies, because it's some streaming service that literally brought back the Twilight film series, and it's like, no, it's not about the vampires. It's the culture. It's the deep messages. It's the diversity, seeing Black people on screen. That's what we want to see. The original content is something brand new, not thought of. That's what people want. So yeah, that movie was amazing. I'm trying to think of any critiques I have. I thought the pacing was amazing. Some people said it was slow. I thought it helped you digest the characters, to help you form and a relation with them and bond with the characters, hence making their deaths, even more impactful. Yeah, the scene, the costume by Ruth Carter, the production design by Hannah Beachler, amazing. They were both on Black Panther 2. Also, I would say not 2, but they probably were on 2 also. But Black Panther 2, Too. Yeah, I love just the concept of like, I think Issa Rae said something about like working horizontally, like knowing that, I think the other executive producer of this film, outside of his wife Zenzi, um, I think his name is Sev. Yes, Sev Ohanian. I think they also met at USC or graduated at the same time. Again, Ryan Coogler taking the same costume and set designer with him, Michael B. Jordan with him. I love that when like people are working together like this. That's a team, and that's something I hope for. Because, like I said, I'm interested in film making and directing. What I'm doing now is practicing my screenwriting, so hopefully I can get into like a film school. That's something I want to do, is have that community too, and I love that too. Again, trying to think of any negative critiques or something. Yeah, I ain't got nothing. I'm sorry. Go see Sinners. It was a great movie. Bye, y'all.